All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nicholas Robison. Welcome to Bourbon Friday. Every Friday at 4:30 we get together. You can see our live stream on Facebook if you like and follow the page. We talk about innovation and entrepreneurship every Friday, some things that are going on in different verticals here in St. Louis and beyond. Today we have Connie Bowen of the Yield Lab here to talk to us about agri-tech food.
Agri-food tech. Sure.
Agri-food tech. My apologies.
I can talk about agri-tech food if you want.
That's absolutely okay. But Connie is yeah, we good? Okay. Connie is here. She is relatively newer to St. Louis. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, Connie?
Sure. So I've been in St. Louis for a little over 2 years. I came here actually with an entrepreneurial fellowship program called Venture for America and VFA.
Yeah.
So VFA takes recent college graduates and kind of acts as a recruiting arm to pull them into startups and entrepreneurial support organizations throughout the country, kind of in an effort to help build in kind of economic development capacity, help rebuild cities throughout America.
That's fantastic. And you said there's quite a strong community.
Yeah, no,
here?
There's a huge number. Just in T-Rex alone, I think we've got at least 10 fellows here, even fellow founders. So one of my good friends started Balto here in the building.
Oh, great.
So yeah, no, it's a great group, and it actually, I grew up in New Jersey outside of New York, so kind of all my friends tend to stick to the coast. But I'm super pleased to be out here in the Midwest in St. Louis.
What, if I don't mind asking, if you don't mind answering, what made you move to St. Louis? What attracted you here?
Well, I actually have a background I have a degree in engineering, so I thought I'll be an engineer.
Yeah.
Logically, spoiler, I'm not working as an engineer right now. But I really have always had a passion for food. I worked as a pastry chef for a little while. I've always gardened pretty avidly. My family has some acreage in Iowa. It's always been kind of part of my life. So I think kind of the intersection of food and engineering, and then also, I was good at math, so I thought, I should do engineering. And the intersection there is agriculture and agriculture technology, and I would contend that there are few better places to be in the world than St. Louis for ag tech right now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I came out here to look at some ag tech companies and actually stumbled upon Cultivation Capital and the Yield Lab, and they were doing some really cool investment in ag tech, and I like to study the different companies that are around, and it was a great kind of fit.
That's perfect. On the engineering side, you are a social engineer, a community engineer, I would say, for the Yield Lab. Why don't you tell us a little about what your roles are? You wear many hats. Why don't you tell us a little about what you do for the Yield Lab?
Sure. So I'm going to give kind of the whole Yield Lab backdrop because I think it's necessary. So the Yield Lab's been around for about 4 years. We think, the first ag tech accelerator in the U.S. When we started in 2014. We were founded by Thad Simons and Ryan Rakestraw. And again, born out of Cultivation Capital, which is a local venture capital firm. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there was no support for ag tech startups. Ag tech is really a relatively nascent investment space today. Sure. So we started out as an accelerator tailored to the needs of agricultural technology companies. So for one of the ways that we tailored our accelerator programming was through making us non-residential. We can't do a boot camp kind of style program because you can't really press go on a pig or a plant like you can on a program. Yeah. So we have a non-residential accelerator program. We also felt that it was really important to make an investment and have skin in the game. So we invest $100,000 in all our accelerator companies. We do 6 to 8 a year. And we've been really successful so far. Right. in the 6 to 8 companies a year. So we're in our 4th year of operation in St. Louis, and we have had such great success that we've actually replicated the program in Ireland and in Argentina.
Oh, wow.
So through those funds, we're operating very similar accelerator programs. So in addition to offering a non-residential program, we really put an emphasis on agribusiness, ag tech, farmer connections.
Right.
So all of our general partners are coming out of agribusiness. So we've got folks from Monsanto, John Deere, Novus, AB InBev. I always forget a couple. But it's really important for a company that's starting out in agriculture to understand kind of the different players, the different distribution channels. Selling to farmers tends not to be so easy. So it's really important to understand, one, should you be selling to farmers, but two, how to
educate them.
Yeah. So my role is I manage our accelerator here in St. Louis. We also, as we kind of expand internationally, are working really hard to make sure that we establish thought leadership. We're an impact fund as well as a venture capital fund, so all of our investments go through kind of a binary impact screening. Are they having a positive social and or environmental impact?
Right.
And so we created the Yield Up Institute, kind of nonprofit
That's
arm.
your nonprofit
That's our nonprofit arm, right. And through that, we're hoping to maintain and kind of establish, really, because this hasn't really been set yet,
right.
But establish parameters around impact investment, while also pulling more folks into the space, because agriculture is the world's largest industry,
right.
Largest employer, yet investment and startups in the space are really low in relative to the size of this opportunity. So how do we get more people looking at it as a real career?
Exactly. So how are you currently attracting the more people into ag tech? Are you working with universities?
Yeah, we actually are. So we're in the process of setting up programs like Mizzou and with the University of Illinois. We've applied for a couple of grants. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. But
I'm sure it'll go well.
I hope so.
Since you were Ag Funders Yield Lab, named Yield Lab as the world's most valuable ag tech accelerator.
Yeah, that's on the for-profit side. Yeah, we were.
But the not-for-profit side. Right?
But the not-for-profit side, because one thing we see with the accelerators, we've reviewed over 800 companies in the past 3 years, all over the world. And we see a ton of opportunities to get involved. Not all of those are good investments. We see plenty of great companies to invest in, but we also see a lot of companies that we want to work with in a non-investment capacity. So we can do that with the Institute. So we can help get that technical founder to a stage where he's investment ready, or she when they've validated their technology. Right. We can help get that really smart roboticist who's never been outside of Boston and never been out to the farm. We can help introduce them to those farmers and connect them. So it's not just getting more people into ag tech, it's also enabling effective innovation in ag tech, because we're seeing an increase in kind of what I call the tech bros fixing farms.
Right.
And it's hard to fix a farm if you've never been to one. So
that's very true.
Yeah.
It's actually amazing that you're able to link between the education side and not really trying to convert people to be ag tech, but how they can influence it. How they can be a part of it.
And I'm trying to convert too. Let's be clear. I am like, my friends are definitely annoyed by like the level to which I recruit people to ag tech. But no, I mean, we've actually done events here trying to overlap industries. So fintech, financial technology, we've got a great group here at 630 that knows how to deal with that. We did a group, kind of a ideathon, I call it, so
Okay.
hackathon without computers.
Right.
And we did a little bit of a brainstorm around how we could solve a couple of problems in the agricultural space using technologies from outside the space. And that went really well, and we'll look to do more events like that.
Yeah.
So kind
Do
of
you
things-
have any upcoming events? Don't you have one coming up soon?
We're in the process. We're in the process of kind of finalizing the terms around an exciting prize competition.
Okay.
We're going to be doing a little something around. We're doing a challenge around actually manure.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
that's awesome.
It's great for marketing. There's
Absolutely.
infinite jokes, infinite
Yeah,
fun calendar
who's
invites.
not interested in poop, right?
Exactly. but in reality, it's a huge problem, particularly look at the dairy industry. We're looking at all this clean meat stuff.
Yeah.
That how do you reduce methane emissions from cattle and swine and poultry production?
I wouldn't even know where to start with that, but I'm sure you know the people that do.
Yeah, exactly. It's a matter of working with the right people.
That's
Groups.
amazing. I do have a few questions. So it's a big week next week for agriculture in St. Louis. The Ag Innovation Showcase is in its 10th year, and the Yield Lab event, AG Fest, in its second year. What's so important about these types of events?
So there's actually lately it feels like too many conferences. They're really popping up all over. But Ag Innovation Showcase has time and time again been one of the more premier events, I guess, in agriculture technology. They really get pull together a great group of folks over the Danforth Center. We'll have a ton of people from all over the world in town for that. It's really interesting. St. Louis has really started to attract more and more international groups, delegations, innovators. This is a spot that people want to set up their U.S. branch.
Absolutely.
And so, so Ag Innovation is going to be the first half of next week. We're just attendees at that.
Right.
But then we have our event that's kind of building on Ag Innovation while people are in town. And that's, like I said, we've got our global accelerators in Ireland and in Argentina and here. So all of our portfolios from those two accelerators in St. Louis will be in town. We'll kind of showcase them on Wednesday and Thursday. We'll also be we're also expanding into, we've got projects now in Singapore and Africa that will be, so Singapore is kind of our Asia Pacific arm. We don't know where we'll be in Africa yet, but we're in the process of kind of setting something up.
Right.
But so
That's absolutely amazing.
yeah,
In such a short period of time.
It's been in the 2 years that I've been here, all of that has happened.
You get to travel.
Sometimes when I'm going to Des Moines in a couple of weeks.
We'll try to. Hopefully, this helps you get to travel.
yeah.
Des Moines.
Tomas is here.
Not Ireland.
Yeah, not quite Ireland.
Just a couple more questions real quick. So for the laymen who are now just learning about ag tech, what are some of the biggest trends happening in ag tech around, not just here in St. Louis, but around the world? Yeah.
It varies depending on where you are in the world.
Sure.
So, in Asia Pacific, we're really excited to look at food safety kind of stuff.
Right.
In Africa, we're really interested in cold chain and traceability and a lot of fintech solutions in that space.
Okay.
Here, we're really interested in, there's huge potential for various kind of gene editing platforms and seed development techniques.
Okay.
There's a lot of really exciting companies here in St. Louis working on that.
Any to shout out?
Well, I think that Benson Hill gets the most hype, and deservedly so. They're one of the more developed companies. But within our portfolio, we've got a number of really cool companies. We've got NanoGuard, has like a food, so it's a step short of pasteurization. They completely treat a food, leave no residue. It's a cold plasma technology without getting too engineering, but no residue and extend shelf life dramatically of fresh produce. And then we've got another company that's developing a crop called cover cress out of pennycress, which used to be a weed. And so cover crops, as a lot of people kind of know, cover crops are good for soil retention.
Sure.
But it's expensive for a farmer usually to grow a cover crop. But this cover crop yields a seed that can be pressed and then sold. So it ends up being an additional
higher yield.
Well, higher yield, but an additional product for the farmer to sell. So instead of having to just scrap the cover crop and just say, okay, it's got a nitrogen fixing benefit, they've also got a product at the end of that off season. It's great.
You said you were the engineer.
Yeah, I could go on for days about the different things.
I see that. And there you have it with Connie from the Yield Lab. We're going to bring on Eric. It's time.
It's time for some bourbon. All right.
Eric, I'm going to hand it off to you. You're going to talk about what we're drinking here.
So today we're drinking 1792 small batch, and I thought about how this relates. Well, this is super easy because so 1792 is the date that Kentucky came into the Union, right? Before that, immigrant farmers came into Kentucky County, which was part of Virginia, and they started farming in earnest, right? Mm-hmm. Well, no longer part of the crown, they don't have to give up all that extra grain. So what do they do with it? Well, they make bourbon. So that's how bourbon came into being, because these farmers had all this extra grain to make whiskey, and whiskey a lot easier to transport than corn back then, because you can do it in barrels,
right?
And more lucrative.
I heard there's a barrel manufacturer here in the state of Missouri.
Yeah, no, like all of the whiskey barrels are. What is it called?
It is ICS.
ICS. It's like 90% of the market of oak whiskey barrels or something like that. It's amazing. Yeah.
Fun fact Friday.
Yep.
I didn't know that until today.
But I mean, additionally, like, if you've heard of the Whiskey Rebellion, that whiskey was the first domestic product that was taxed by the U.S. government. And that started in 1791.
So how does it taste, guys?
Taste it.
It's really good. It's very good.
It's interesting, you know, at one of the conferences I was at recently, I can't remember if it was bourbon or whiskey, which is probably bad. I'm not that big into it, but the farmers were talking about there's an increased need to diversify, and you know, how can you turn corn, which has been a real low value crop, how can you turn it into something really high value? And so combining kind of a on-farm distillery with kind of agritourism is an increasingly so there'll be some cool
most is number 2 yellow dent, which is the most, like, you know, what is it, 5% of the United States is that corn is planted in number 2 yellow dent. So
do you know, like, how, like, the bourbon industry in Missouri, do you know anything about that, or like people that are affiliated, or it's like, is that part of ag tech?
I mean, it is, but I'm not gonna. It's not my area of expertise. I don't think. We haven't made any investments in bourbon tech to date, but I mean,
bourbon
we
tech.
would,
Oh, right.
right? Like you can put tech.
If
on
you're in
everything.
Ireland, you might as well just reach out to Jameson.
Yeah, right. No, but actually, we do have a company in Ireland that uses not bourbon, but they use brewer's mash from Guinness. And there's these like gross black soldier fly larvae, and they will eat like any waste, and they're actually turned into a really useful replacement for fish meal, which is used for aquaculture, and it's kind of a full closed loop system.
Just recycling
reducing waste. Reducing the mass.
And that's what distillers do here. Like all the bourbon distilleries sell their mash, their leftover mash, to
usually for pig
cattle.
food.
Cattle and pigs.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So
we're good to go. Eric, did you want to add anything else about
No,
bourbon?
I'm good.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Thank you so much, Connie and Eric, obviously every week. for joining us today on Bourbon Friday. Thank you so much for T-Rex for letting us use their awesome facility. Goodbye. We'll see you next week at 4:30.
Bye.